I will try my best. Anyway, so I will have to rush through the slides and I will also give a cracks of the work that we have been doing at the University of Kashmir. And the melting third force, the driving forces and the geopolitical consequences, I will talk one slide at the end that is very important because the theme of the conference is geopolitics. Now I will just share some of my thoughts, which many of our speakers for the last 2 days have been talking. The indicators of climate change are quite clear and loud in the Upper Indus Basin. I mean, in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, and the implications of the depleting cryosphere under changing climate on water, energy, and food security have far-reaching geopolitical consequences. And as per our estimates in the Upper Indus Basin, I mean in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, we have lost about 20% of the glacial mass during the last 6 decades. And more important, observation that we are finding that there's a shift in the stream flows peak. We used to get maximum flow during the summers. Now we are getting the maximum stream flows, as I will show you some of the, even from the entire, western 3 rivers, the stream flow is shifting. We are getting more waters during the spring, and that's a very important, consideration for the policy and decision makers, because the waters from that region are governed by a treaty called the Indus Water Treaty. And I believe that many of us have been talking that the water issues, if not, basically, understood in right perspective, will have implications on the South Asian security. We already, if we look at the India and Pakistan particularly, already water has entered into official discourse between India and Pakistan, and the 2 foreign ministries are talking on the water. And some of the challenges that we are addressing at the University of Kashmir, because cryosphere research is a very active thrust area of research at the University of Kashmir. How much water is stored in the Indus cryosphere or in the state of Jammu and Kashmir? Now, if you look at the current estimates that we have, they vary by magnitude. The methods that we have, I mean, if a policymaker at Delhi wants to know how much water is there stored on the glaciers, I think none of us has a very direct answer to that. And how heterogeneous is the Indian Himalayan system, region? In the state of Jammu and Kashmir itself, you will see that the glaciers are behaving very differently in different ranges. So it is not that it is Eastern Himalaya, Central Himalaya, and Northwestern Himalaya. Even within the Northwestern Himalayas, there is a large variability as far as the glacier response is concerned. And we have observed, have we, some people say that, the peak due to the melting of the glaciers. Have we already reached the tipping point of the maximum glacial melt? I believe that if you look at the discharge, stream flow discharge from the Western Himalayas, that has already been reached in 90s. So since 90s, we are seeing a significant, almost 30% decline in the stream flow. So that peak has, where in the Alps people still discuss that it will come by 2025 or later. I think probably as per our research, that peak has already been. And how important are the glaciers for the stream flow? If all the glaciers melt, we sometimes get confused here. So it is very important on the basis of our stream flow partitioning that we have done. How much is the contribution of ice? How much is the contribution of snow and the rain into it? I think we need to be very clear. Of course, it's a function of time. It is a function of space. It varies from region to region. But let us say in Kashmir Valley, we have found that this glacial melt is just about 6% of the total, on an average. But if you go to the Karakoram or go to the Indus, Upper Indus, so you can. And another important factor, that we need to think vis-a-vis the climate change. How important is the black carbon? So I tell you, in the Kashmir Valley, when Dr. Bhutiani was talking, and few others also, if you look at the Pir Panchal range, there is the maximum glacier recession, and the warming in that is very high. So what is the influence of the black carbon in there? If you look on the southern side and on the eastern side, there are huge populations that are burning the biomass there. So, and you will be surprised that the black carbon concentration in Kashmir is as bad as Calcutta. People think that Kashmir is very pristine air and all that. So I published a paper in the atmospheric environment where I showed that among all the Himalayan high stations, Kashmir has the highest black carbon. So the enhanced rate of melting we see in the Pir Panchal or in the Kashmir Himalayas, how much is the contribution from the black carbon? So I will be just really now rushing through the. So we have, in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, we have more than 8,000 glaciers. So and some of the glaciers are as big as 60 kilometers in one dimension. The Sechin Glacier. So you have quite a, and if you look at the estimates, so and how many of them have been studied, and somebody yesterday was saying a score of them in the entire Indian Himalayas. But if you look into the Indian side and Pakistani side of the Indus, not more than 20 glaciers have been studied. And these are the glaciers that have been studied using remote sensing and all field, but on the basis of field observations, not more than a score of them. And the methods that we use normally, the area scaling methods or the slope-based methods, to estimate the volume of these glaciers and look at the estimates. So if you use one of these methods, you can have 22,330 gigatons, or you can end up with 65,000 gigatons. So there's a large variability as far as the the total amount of glacial mass that is stored in the Indian Himalayas. And on what basis do? We have the few of the inventories. We have AC mode inventory. We have RGI inventory. We have the our own inventory here. The ISRO inventory. I think even the numbers you can see. This is one of the glacier here, Kolhai Glacier. This is in our database now. You can see this is one glacier system. So you can see some inventory shows it at 8 glaciers, and here also. So because even the area, there is a change in the area. Numbers definitely significantly varying on number of glaciers in these inventories. But as far as the area is also concerned, you can see that area is also changing here. Area is also, but in one of the basins, this is the Chenab Basin, Suru Basin, and Jahlim Basin. So you can see. So which of these inventories you will use to estimate the mass in that? So that also varies. In the Kashmir Himalayas, we have been working on different. This is published and work, and you can see here. This is what Bhutiani was also talking about. If you look at the land surface temperature on an average, if you look at the temperature from 1st of November up to the 30th of April, the winter temperatures in the Karakoram are minus 18 degrees centigrade. So those, extreme low temperatures sustain those, glaciers. While as in case of the Pir Panchal or the Greater Himalaya, temperatures are quite warm, and that is one reason that we are seeing high rates of recessions there. And we have 11 stations in the entire state of Jammu and Kashmir where we have long-term data. So we really don't know what is happening up on the mountains. We don't have access. Now, if we look at the snow cover, so it is showing a consistently, almost no trend. So you can look at this land surface. So this is now some of these glaciers. So you can look at the mass thickness, mass change. This is from the ISAT. So the Ramanathan was saying, I was very surprised, I had not seen that paper, where it shows the tree ring based estimates. He showed one slide where he showed Jammu and Kashmir almost a bit increasing mass trend. So if we look on...
Negative but not that.
No, when I was looking at that, it was just an increasing mass. Anyway, even if it is, but if we look at it, so that is not your paper. I suppose that was some other paper.
Not
anyway,
paper.
Yeah. So, but if you look on the ground, we have 7, benchmark glaciers where we are doing the field-based mass balance, GPR. We have, geodetic mass balance, and you can look. These are some 7 glaciers. You can look at this. This is one glacier, and where we are monitoring the snout on all these, glaciers. We have almost about 21 glaciers where we have been doing the snout mapping. Yeah. So this is the Kolhai Glacier. So on an average, the glaciers in the Kashmir Himalaya are changing, except the Karakoram, are just receding by almost 18 to 20 meters. Now this is one of the glaciers of one of these Weidmar glaciers. So you can see the mass losses on an average. Yeah. So almost a meter of water equivalent we are losing every year and that is a scenario over the entire Kashmir Valley. When I say Kashmir Valley, it is one of the Jhelum Basin worldwide. So the data, I mean, Ramanathan showed almost no changes. But I will say you that I have 4 benchmark glaciers where we have been, field basin mass changes. It is on an average 1 meter of water equivalent we are seeing. So you can see the ISAT data also almost similar type of, and the implications on yesterday I was talking about this in, when Krishnan was saying that there will be an increase from the modeling results increase in the snowfall. So we have from the observations, there's a significant decrease in the snow and corresponding increase in the rain. So if you look at the data, observed data over the Jammu and Kashmir, there is not any change in the precipitation. There's a slight increase, but it is not significant. But what is changing in the form of precipitation is changing in the lower elevation. Significantly, it is changing, and that has tremendous implications. And if you look at the discharge from the entire Jammu and Kashmir, the 3 rivers, the Chenab, Indus, and you can see this is what I was saying, that there's a 30% decrease since mid of 90s here, and it is shown by the individual observations also here, and also it is observed here. And how much is the ice melt, or how much is the snow melt, ice melt, rainfall here? You can look at the Jhelum, almost 6% we have from the glacial melt, but snow melt is quite significant, almost 55%. So on an average, if you look at the estimates, empirically worked out, the Indus has 85% from the snow and ice, and you can see the Jhelum has 65 and all this. So quite a significant here, but from the snow melt. Ice melt is correspondingly less. So this is what is happening. This is from the observed data from 1970. We have the peak discharge we used to have in summer. Now it is equally, you have a lot of discharge in the spring, or in some cases the spring and discharge and summer discharge is same. So we need water in the in the Jammu and Kashmir. We need water in the summer, because we don't need it in April or May. We need it in June, July, August. And if we look at the modeling scenarios, now this is the observed here, and under RCP 2.5, you can see that so by mid of century the stream flow peak is shifting here. So you can see that we will have maximum discharge in the month of April. And we don't have in the state of Jammu and Kashmir even a capacity to store 1 liter of water. So we don't have the storage capability unless and until we rise to the occasion. And this is So this is what I was talking. If you look at the black carbon concentration in Kashmir Valley, highest among all the published work that is here, so very high, and the sources are mainly from the Central Asia. So India and Pakistan at odds over sharing of, we know last year, after the Udi attack, even we threatened that we will abrogate, and I wrote a couple of pieces on that why abrogation of Indus Water Treaty is not in India's favor, or standing by the Indus Water Treaty is in India's best interests. So I think already, it has, I will say the misconcepts, downstream there. In Pakistan, from Hafiz Saeed up to the President Zardari has spoken about the water. The religious, and the nationalistic, discourses on this, I think, are going to complicate it. Yeah, so what are the consequences? I mean, if you look at the Indus Water Treaty, it is blind about the climate change. So if you look at search on the treaty, there is no word on climate change. So the people who developed the Indus Water Treaty, negotiated the Indus Water Treaty, at that time didn't have, so this is the last slide, okay? So they didn't, think about the climate change, and we know that there is a 30% significant decline in the stream flow since 1960. And yeah, changes in the hydrograph. The peak is shifting. That also will have, certain kind. The voices for the groundwater treaty. Already Dr. Tiwari showed a very significant depletion of the groundwater in the. So in both parts of the basin, Indus Basin on the Pakistan side and India side, there is excessive withdrawal of the groundwater. I think there is already a religious and nationalistic posturing. Need for water storages, and flood infrastructure. We know that because of the lack of infrastructure, we are going to suffer. Data sharing, telemetry, and joint studies, need to be encouraged so that there is confidence. And I believe that science should guide the policy and water sharing diplomacy. Thank you very much for your attention.